Hey, this is Gerd Handel, and welcome to the Inner Light Project. This show is for anyone who's wanting to lead a happier, healthier, and enlightened life. Create more self-love, inject more joy and abundance into their daily life. Join me for inspiring interviews and spiritual topics so you can shine your inner light. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Inner Light Project. My name is Gerd Handel and today I have a guest with me who is all about transformation and harnessing the wisdom from within. Now, we both have had our own powerful transformations and we've helped so many people to take their power back. And this episode is really about you learning more about your soul's nervous system and how you can really trust the wisdom that is within yourself. My friend Akary Busto is an emotional biohacker and quantum human design specialist who empowers individuals to transform trauma and build resilience through their nervous system regulation. Akary, I'm so grateful to have you on the show and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, bless you. Just so interesting talking to you before we were about to start the show and how similar we are. It's unbelievable in certain things in our human design, which we're going to be talking about today, which I'm so excited to share with the listeners.
I love it. I love it. It's the synergy.
Yeah. So before we talk about human design, I know that you also do something called about biohacking. Can you tell us what your life was like before you became a biohacker?
Yes. So, to me, biohacking is foundational work really for all of us. So before I got into this part of this new space, I used to be in corporate banking. So ironically, my last corporate banking job was with Lloyd's.
I do know them very well.
Yes. And I worked out of the Isle of Man in their offshore banking sector. And a lot of the stuff that kind of ended up just piling on and on before I got into this was just the amount of stress and cortisol, right? So you already are dealing with your own personal stress and then you add work stress and it just inundated my whole life. And I recognized and I realized that I needed something to help me get rid of all of this stress. And then at the same time, I was dealing with a lot of personal issues with my daughter and her father wanting to keep her full time and she wanting to live with me full time. And so there was like this huge battle back and forth. Yeah. And it was always so draining to be confronted with the personal stress and then to be confronted with the work stress and the career. And, for me in the banking industry, I was always one of the only women at the table. And so dealing with a lot of high emotions, and we were just talking about how difficult it is to deal with men in particular, because they're not used to expressing a lot of other emotions other than anger. And so it was really difficult for me to navigate that, because instead of doing things different, I think that I adapted to my environment and I was starting to behave like them. Right? Or you become very volatile and you become very angry. And that wasn't who I was. And it didn't feel good inside. So after they ended up closing their offices here in the Los Angeles area, it was a blessing in disguise, because that's when everything started catching up to me, right? Right when you finally are able to stop, it's like everything starts to just like hit you. Yeah. The stress, the not taking care of myself, the not having the tools to effectively mitigate the cortisol levels that are going in my body, just everything hit. I had to have surgery for carpal tunnel because, as you know, we're like typing ferociously all day, every day, and we're not even looking at the ergonomics of it, how we're sitting, how we're taking care of ourselves. There was none of that awareness. So before I came across my work, it was just really surviving. It was thriving in one area where you look at mom and, I'm traveling and I'm doing all kinds of corporate stuff. And then on the other end, it's like my health was really going downhill. And it was very apparent as soon as I stopped working that I needed to do something different. And one woman was doing a breath work. It was like before breath work became mainstream. She was doing this breathwork circle in Hollywood, and typically Hollywood for me is about maybe 40 minutes to an hour because it's across the other way to the city, to the west side. And during that moment, I feel like my whole like world opened up. I finally was able to get out of my head because I'm an A personality, A type personality. So my brain's always on and always working and always thinking. And at that moment, everything went silent. And this is what I thought I wish I would have had while I was doing all the corporate functions and all the corporate work and dealing with, my daughter's father and dealing with my daughter's emotions. It would have been so helpful to have had this big tool.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that's when I decided that I was going to go deeper down that rabbit hole and learned a lot about it, got myself certified in what I could find that was close to home, and noticed that there were so many different pieces that were missing from the certification. So one of the biggest pieces was that breath work is definitely a nervous system tool, and that they were correlated and that they affect each other. So what I did not really put together was that when I was doing my certification training, I was already seeing a therapist because I knew I needed more work to do. And I chose a somatic therapist so that we could process, stuff that was stuck in my body. And doing the certification was funny because I was enjoying myself. I was like in this blissful space of, gosh, this is exactly what my body needed to re-energize and to move forward. And at the same time, some of the people that were in the certification class were messy and ugly crying. And there was just so much going on. And I never really, at that point, I just wanted to go and hug them and be with them. And I realized that a lot of the people that were doing these certification courses were looking at it as a healing space. And it can help you get to a certain place. But if you're not doing your inner work, it's almost like a Band-Aid that you can put on and take off and put. And that's why I think breathwork circles are very popular, because you feel so good and you leave feeling so good that you constantly have to come back to refuel. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's just it kind of puts you in a loop. Does that make sense?
Oh no, 100%. I relate, because when I started doing somatic healing, it was so powerful. And, I've done a lot of inner work the past, God, it'll be 13 years now. But in the early stages, I didn't know anything about breath work apart from meditating. And, when I learned about somatics, my gosh, it shifted whatever trauma was stored in the body. Like we can clear, thoughts that are in our mind, but there's certain things that are stored in our body that needs healing. And that really taught me just the power of using the breath and being present and letting go and raising whatever's meant to come up to the surface.
Yeah. Yeah, it does a great job. And that's what I felt. I felt that the work that I was doing in the somatic work, I could process it during breath work without having to share, without having to say anything. It was just me, my body, my brain. And I call it like the brain hacking, right? When you're in breath work, because it just hacks your brain and you're in a completely different space and you let go of whatever it is that your body needs to let go of. And not a lot of processing has to happen. You're just being guided. And for me, the guidance has to be very feminine and not in a nurturing feminine way, but more like that divine feminine way where you push things through, but it doesn't have to be so difficult, and it doesn't have to be so hard that you have to emote so hard. I like things to be gentle. I do have this belief that, yeah, things can be hard and life is hard. So why do I want to go and heal hard? I'd rather just process gently.
That's beautiful. And it was interesting what you said earlier about your career path and how you worked in the banking sector. I used to work as a journalist, and it's very similar mentality. It's very hustle culture, very, gosh, male orientated, angry, aggressive, sarcastic, you name it, energy. You end up becoming your environment. And so, no wonder your nervous system was on overdrive and my nervous system was on overdrive. And we were in survival mode because we didn't know the balance of the masculine and the feminine at that time. And so, I stepped back as well. And, it was the biggest blessing of my life. And I went on this deep journey like yourself, the inner work and focusing on myself. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but, things happen when you are ready to surrender. And, I look back and I think, gosh, those environments were so toxic. No wonder people get sick so easily. No wonder people don't know how to trust themselves because they've spent their whole life being taught to be one thing that they're not, instead of actually being who they are. And also learning that they can live a more calmer way of life. It's just trusting from within.
Yes, well, the intuition that a woman has just by nature, by being female, gets uh, clogged, right? It gets clogged with all of these different things that don't even belong to us because we are not meant to be in our masculine. It's not sustainable.
Hmm.
It is just not sustainable. And I feel like I hit my max, right? Especially because I was fighting the men in my office and then having to fight another man in my personal life. It was just like overwhelmed. It was too much for my system. And I do feel there was a big disconnect for me. And being able to raise a daughter without having to pass on that warrior stance, that archetype of that warrior self has been a really big challenge even now, trying to soften around the edges so that she doesn't have to feel like she needs to be a warrior. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I think that comes in our name as well, as we both discovered that we have a same meaning for our first names.
Oh, it's crazy.
And yeah, and we do have that. I think because our life is about the darkness into the light. It is a very warrior energy, and I guess our early years is all about the masculine, and then as we get older, it's more about the feminine. But it's that beautiful dance of masculine and feminine together.
Yes. Yes, for sure. Well, we need both of them. We need both of them. But I think in general, it is our divine feminine that needs to be the way forward, right? The soft way. Instead of having to come in so assertive or aggressive, coming in soft and knowing that it is through that softness that we can change the world versus wanting to push and do things that just don't work. They just don't work for us.
Yeah, and I think with what's been happening in the last few years, we're noticing that the masculine like is falling down, and that the feminine is coming up, and it's just showing like in the world right now why we need more compassion and empathy, and we're in the age of Aquarius now, and it's all about balance and calmness and creativity, which is the feminine.
And also what's really beautiful is that the men that are stepping into this space are just lovely. They're lovely and they're beautiful. And I love to see a man who can show up vulnerable and wanting to do the work and wanting to show up different. I don't think that they get enough attention.
That's true.
And I know for a fact that there's not a lot of spaces dedicated to them yet, but they're growing. They're definitely growing.
Yeah. And have you noticed like the generations have shifted as well? Like the younger generation of men are very different to the older generation, and you can see this softening happening in each generation.
All of these shifts have been happening, and I see it in the young kids. I'm fortunate that I get to see a lot of different ages around me, and there's a huge movement of kids who want to be better, who want to be more inclusive, who want to include everyone into their circle. They don't want separation. They want unity. So I think that we've done a great job of exposing our children. Some of us have done a great job of exposing our children to what is possible versus what we were taught.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It gives me a lot of hope when I talk to kids, teenagers that have these different ways of looking at life and who sometimes don't even agree with their parents' beliefs, and they stand up for them.
100%, and probably even for yourself. I know for me growing up, talking about mental health was such a taboo. Like you wouldn't talk about it if somebody had it in the family, you didn't really talk about it. And now in the last probably 15 years, it's become so normalized, and it's beautiful that people are like, you know what, I need to go get therapy, I need support, I need help. And it's beautiful to see that things are finally shifting, and the younger generation don't have an issue. They're like, yeah, I need therapy, or yeah, I need this, whereas the older lot could still be a bit tricky at times.
It is really interesting because I do have some young adults who will say, I really need to find a therapist. Can you help me? And of course, being the resourceful person that I am, I'm like, absolutely. Let me show you the way. And many of these young adults are waiting because their parents are not supportive.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
they're waiting to get a job. And of course, here in America, things are done different. So they need to have a full-time job in order to qualify for any type of medical insurance and to be able to get that support. But that's the number one thing on their agenda is we have to figure out how we need to find support for ourselves to shift and change and let go of the things that don't work for me.
Can you tell us about quantum human design? Because there's a lot of conversations about it out there, but can you explain it in simpler terms for someone out there who's never heard of quantum healing, sorry, quantum human design before?
Well, we have traditional human design, and then when the founder, the creator of this system passed away in 2011, one of the women that was a student of his stepped in and recognized that the work that he had started obviously was never going to be able to be finished by him. But the whole process was, like you said earlier, is understanding the not self, understanding who you are not, so that you can actually give room for who you are in your highest expression.
Ooh.
And so traditional human design really focuses on the not self. And what quantum human design has done is shifted the way the words are being used. So to give you an example, a generator type. So you and I are generators. And in traditional human design, we are introduced as the slaves of the world. We are the generators. Ones, I know, very sexy. We're the hustlers. We're the ones that, just put our heads down and we're going to generate. We're going to go. We're going to do, right? We're doers.
Yeah.
And when you start to move into this quantum space, we are actually the alchemists. We're the ones that create. We're the ones that build. We're the ones that have that sacral energy to make the world go round. So it is our job to find work that we love so that it expands in that quantum space for the rest of the world. So once that shift happens in your mind that I'm not here to just take a job to take a job, it doesn't mean that you cannot have a job that maybe it isn't your biggest passion, but that on the side, you are still feeding your soul with the hobbies, the things that make you, right, so joyful. But it is really talking about finding the joyful thing so that we do not end up frustrated in the world. So it's beautiful to see that words matter, and we're seeing it more and more. And we've witnessed a lot of different scientists proving, right, that words matter. So using that quantum space to start shifting the way words are being used creates more empowerment. So traditional human design is meant to kind of wake you up and shake you up, which it definitely did to me. When I came across that, I was so unhappy. I was like, really? Like, I'm going to be the slave of the world? But think about it. Even though I knew that I was unhappy in my corporate job, I still kept going. And so for generator types, we either quit too soon or not soon enough. And for you and I, for me, at least it was like an abrupt change, like my office closed, which forced that to, right. It was that pivoting moment.
Yeah, I was made redundant. So it was like, you've got to go, even though I knew I was going to leave soon anyway. But it was like, right, you need to go now. I was like,
yes,
thank you, universe.
Yes, it was the right timing. It was the timing of it all. So that's really what human design is about. It's about finding the timing, finding the courage, finding all the things that you are not, but yet you align yourself with all of these things, because chaos is a lot louder than calm. And a lot of us are not used to being in alignment with ourselves and in that true, like, who am I space. So I look at human design as such a blessing, because it teaches you how you are to be out in the world. It teaches you how to make decisions, right? And it teaches you what you're here to do. And so we were talking earlier about our profile numbers, and we recognize we are here to do the research, and we're here to try all sorts of things that maybe a lot of people don't have access to. And so I know a little bit about a lot of different things. And I used to get judged when I was young. My parents would say, you just need to find one thing that you want to do for the rest of your life. And like, there's so many different things that I want to try. Right. And they would get so frustrated. I think I changed my major probably a dozen times. You know, it was like shiny object. I want to do that. And really, it wasn't that I wanted to change my major. It was just that I was just very curious. And so we all have a purpose in this world, and to embrace that. So for that profile number, which is our number 3 that we share, people would look at me and always say, like, you're just all over the place. You can never just stand still. And what it is, it's such a blessing, because I'm very curious to see what works and what doesn't. And it is by trying these things, it's by doing these things, it's by having these experiences that I have been able to go, okay, well, this is not the way, and to guide people. I always say, I could never be a fitness coach, right? Because I've never had to deal with fitness. I don't know anything about weightlifting or running track, or, I just don't. I can't teach you what I haven't lived through. And so my experience as a 1-3 profile has been pretty intense. And when I meet people like yourself with that same profile, I'm very curious, because now I know that you go down just as deep as I do. And it may not have, and it's not going to be the same topics. So my partner is a manifesting generator, and he is also a 1-3.
Oh, wow.
His fascination with technology, his fascination with aliens and different dimensions, it's not my cup of tea, but I love it, because we're talking about learning all kinds of things that I normally would never learn. And so I learn a lot from him because of his own, rabbit holes that he goes down into.
It keeps you both interested. Like, you're like, oh, what's this about? Oh, tell me more.
And these are the people that I can have conversations with for hours and hours, because I'm learning from them.
Wow.
And so it's important. It's so important to understand your human design in that sense, because it also validates what you already knew about yourself, but either were shut down by someone's comment or something happened in your life that mirrored something different to you.
Oh, 100%. Like, I didn't even know that I had the sacral aspect. And I'd always had pains growing up as a kid. And like, like you said, I've always been knowledgeable. I'm like, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. And here, there, and everywhere. Have to experience life. And I didn't understand how I was energetically picking up emotions from other people through the sacral aspect. So when I saw the human design, I was like, oh my God, no wonder that's always felt heavy. And when I release from there, and the breath work and the somatic aspect from there, oh, it's so therapeutic. Now I get it, and now I know how to shield it if I need to.
And it allows you to have more awareness, right? Because you pick up on so many different things outside of you that it feels out of place. It doesn't feel in alignment. So my favorite thing when I'm talking about generators is learning how to ask yes or no questions. So being able to say, do you want chicken, or do you want fish for dinner? right? Because if someone says, what do you want for dinner? It's like, oh my God, there are so many choices.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Or someone says, hey, you want to go out and have dinner? Oh, let's do it. And they're like, where do you want to go? I don't know. Where do
I don't
you want to
know.
go?
Yeah.
We don't work well that way.
That is true. That is so true. Whereas if you
So,
say, yeah.
and so I think it's just really amazing when you understand yourself, because then you teach people, right? We teach people how to treat us.
Mm.
And that's a really big piece. It's really beautiful when someone understands that and then starts to learn how to ask you questions, especially when you're in relationship. It's so much easier. So my daughter is also a generator, but she's emotionally defined, which means that
Wow.
she has a lot of waves. And
Mm.
so she's like, "Woo!" Right? Oh my gosh, I remember she was in at university, and she called me crying because she had had an experience. And so I'm completely invested at this point, right? We're crying, we're in it, I'm there. Then she says, hold on, someone's sending me a message. And she looks at her phone and then she says, okay, I gotta go. We're going to the mall.
Like, what is going on here?
And I was just like, okay, so I just had a hot potato put in my hands and I don't know what to do with it. But knowing that she has all of these, waves, I was able to go, okay, well, we can chat later, which was the most difficult thing to say because all I wanted to say is, wait a minute, what? Yeah. So
Interesting.
so helpful because then I don't personalize these things, right? When these things come up with her and I, it's not personal, it's energy. And I can move on with my life and pivot away from it instead of investing more of my energy in it.
That is so fascinating for a parent, right? You could spend your whole life trying to figure out your child, and then you've got their quantum human design. And it's like, okay, now I can understand him or her. Now I can understand why they are the way they are. It's not them acting out. It might be because of this, this, and this.
And we call that mistaken motivations.
Mm.
Mistaken motivations, because we tend to think it's because of this, but really a lot of some of our children are just learning how to, connect emotions with their bodies. So they don't really know what they're feeling.
Mm.
And if your children are in that teenage year, their hormones are going a little crazy. So there's a lot of variables around it. I'm in the midst of finishing the finishing touches of a course that I'm putting out there, and it's called Parenting by Design.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
I do it because I have so many women that I work with that
Mm.
are dealing with a lot of stress, and they don't realize that a lot of that stress is because they're personalizing things that have nothing to do with them. Whether they
Oh,
want to come out and fix things, whether they want to be the be all for their children, instead of stepping away and just allowing their children to be, they're in that sinking ship with them.
and imagine if our parents had this, our quantum human design, they would have made their life a lot easier because we're like here, there,
Right? Yeah.
everywhere. What are you doing? It would just make sense to them. Okay, that's how they are. This is why they are. This is what they
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
Gosh.
It would have been so helpful to have been parented differently. And see, both my parents were manifesting generators or are manifesting
Wow.
generators. And so there's a lot of busy energy. And
Mm.
one of the biggest things was being in so much chaos in my home because mom had a million different things that she wanted to do at the same time and catching up to her, right? I'm a generator type and I have a lot of energy,
Mm.
but her busy energy was always needing to be busy. And if you were caught in a room doing nothing, it was like, what are you doing? You need to be doing something.
I get that. I get it.
And even now, I could be sitting there and my partner walks into the room and I jump.
Oh, bless you. It's because you're used to that behavior. Yeah. Yeah.
It's in my body. It hasn't released. It has still the trauma in my body responding that way. And he just kind of laughs because I really connect a lot of my trauma with him because he's a manifesting generator and my mother is a manifesting generator. So he will say certain things and I'm like, oh my God, you sound like my mother.
It's
It's
funny.
wild. It's
It's
really
fascinating.
wild.
Yeah, and it's interesting you talked about the chaos because that's a lot that is a lot for a lot of immigrant parents, right? And the first generation experience that because there's a lot, I don't know if you've noticed, there's a lot of hoarding of
Hmm.
immigrant parents. They don't let things go, whereas we want things a bit more neater and tidy. But also, there's also the chaos. They're constantly busy. They don't know how to slow down. They were used to from a young age just constantly be busy. And, I remember even if you put a cup of tea, like you finished a cup of tea, if that you'd have to wash that cup straight away. You could not leave it there for 20 minutes. If you left it for 20 minutes, somebody's picking that up and washing it. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, calm down.
So that to me is also, I relate that to human design.
Yeah.
So human design consists of 5 systems, and they're all old systems. So we have the chakra system, which super old. We have Eastern and Western astrology, which is super old. We
Hmm.
have the I Ching, which is the Chinese book of wisdom, super old.
Wow.
Then we add the Tree of Life, which is a Kabbalah teaching, super old. And I think the only thing and that is very fairly new into this system is the quantum physics of it.
Hmm.
So the root chakra, right?
Hmm.
The human design chart, whenever there's a chakra that is highlighted,
Hmm.
that is consistent energy, and everybody's chart is going to look different.
Yeah.
When that root chakra is not defined, when it is like not colored in, it amplifies energy. And the root is a motor. So there's a lot of energy, a lot of adrenaline energy. When that person doesn't have that root defined, they feel the pressure to get things off their list. Like they literally do lists, they have to-do lists. And when that root chakra is not defined, it creates a lot of that pressure. So I understand what you're saying because I feel it in my home.
Hmm.
My root chakra is defined, but my partner isn't. And so dishes in the sink are such a trigger. And if the dish does not get taken care of, he just can't help himself. He has to go and get
Yeah.
it done. So I've witnessed this in my home myself. It is quite a thing. And my parents were not like that.
Hmm.
My parents were not as bad around that. It was more like, dinner dishes and stuff like that. But this is it's a little out there for me. And it took me learning about human design to recognize what it is.
Wow. We wouldn't think that, would you? You wouldn't think, oh, it's to do with human design. You think, oh, that's just how they grew up, and you would automatically just assume that. Gosh, it's
Some
within.
of it could be conditioning, right? Because we
Yeah.
can get conditioned to do that. Um, I think to a certain degree, he conditions me versus me conditioning him. Uh, my chart is very open. I have a lot of openness. And so
Yeah.
I kind of just flow. I do a lot of different things. And I guess that also makes me much more empathic with
Hmm.
what's going on around me. And I do absorb a lot of energy, but I've learned since to understand what is mine,
Hmm.
what is not mine. So I typically, especially when working with others, I'm always like, what's mine is mine, and what is yours is yours. Take it.
You sound like an empath because that's what. Yeah. Yeah. Empaths
Totally.
here. Yep. You get it.
Totally. It's like I have to remind myself. I do. I have to remind myself. I feel things. Everything that's happening in the collective, I feel it as if it was happening to me.
Hmm.
And I have to detach myself from it. But it's
Hmm.
also good because I get to experience the flavor of it.
Hmm.
And I understand I think that makes it easier for me to work with people because I feel like I'm in the trenches with you.
Hmm. I get that. And
Yeah.
it's from lived experience, right? Nothing can
Yeah.
beat lived experience. You can read a textbook about psychology, but living it, it's another story. Having the tools is another story. I 100% relate with that, which is why,
Yeah. And in university, my focus was studying history.
oh, wow.
That's what I ended up doing. And it becomes so handy because when you're working with the nervous system and you're working with people, it's not just the micro, you're considering the macro. And so I get to ask a lot of questions around, if they're immigrants, where did their parents come from, or where did their grandparents come from? And I start connecting the dots that way.
That's beautiful. Gosh, I feel like we could talk about this forever, but we are coming towards the end of the show. It's gone so fast. I'm like, oh my God, we'll have to do a part two. But what are your five top tips for someone who wants to calm their nervous system, but they don't know where to start?
This is not new science. I love science. It's not new science, but for some reason, well, I don't, I could probably say that we've been taught to disconnect from ourselves, right?
Hmm.
Like to not feel.
Yeah.
So what I teach now is the connection to the heart,
Hmm.
the connection to the heart. There's an alignment. It's called heart-brain coherence.
Hmm.
That is where the magic happens. So I can give you many different tips, but the main tip I think that would be the big winner in all of this is aligning with your heart. And the way that looks like is you're in line at the grocery store and someone's having a fit, more than likely someone's little 3-year-old toddler, and your nerves get all dysregulated and you're just very out of, sync.
Hmm.
It is connecting to your heart
Hmm.
and imagining that you're breathing in and out of your heart.
Hmm.
And that practice, that little technique will neutralize all of the negative emotions that you're feeling in that moment because it brings you into this present moment of, I'm safe, I'm here. I don't need to be with the 3-year-old toddler. That's not my toddler.
Hmm.
I'm in my little bubble and I'm here. And the more you learn how to turn that into a habit,
Hmm.
the more you're going to be able to stay in your own zone, right? I want to stay in my own zone because it's safe here.
Hmm.
Outside of my zone, I can't control, but in my zone, in my own little bubble of joy, nothing can penetrate it. This exercise, depending on how you're using it and the techniques that are out there through the HeartMath Institute, can shift your baseline.
Wow.
And right, it's a life changer. So this work is connected to Joe Dispenza's work.
Yes, I know about Joseph Spencer. Yeah.
So I connect people into a small biofeedback sensor, and you're able to see your nervous system live. And what I love about it is you can see how stressed your heart is, right? Because literally your heart is the one that gets a pounding.
Hmm.
So starting to soften. And remember earlier, I was talking about just softening in that female divine wisdom energy. It starts here, it starts in your heart, but not just for the divine feminine, even for the sacred masculine, being able to soften and come at things from a softer place. This is what I have found to be the most effective tool, technique, habit, ritual that you can ever find. And if you connect it with the sensor, then you can actually see what that feels like. It's like blood work. If you don't go get your blood done, you don't know how healthy you are or how
Hmm.
not healthy you are.
Hmm.
So being able to see the data, and I'm a data girl, right? I have my Aura ring. It tells me when I'm not sleeping well. I love the data because I know I haven't had a good night's sleep, but what does it look like in the data space? Well, how does this affect me?
Hmm.
Learning that, understanding it, and then applying different ways of just refreshing is what's going to help me thrive. And my work is very foundational. I love working from the foundation of the mind, the body, and the soul.
Hmm.
And, sleep hygiene is also going to help you. So, those things, what you're eating, how you're sleeping, and how you're connecting to your heart are the best things I think anyone can tap into.
That's beautiful. And it's true, you're right. We can't just look at one area, we have to look at all areas to see why our nervous system is on overdrive. And then, like you said, learning tools to ground it and balance.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I the way I have figured things out and downloaded things into my own psyche, understanding things is when I was in that corporate world, I know for sure I wasn't eating well enough, right? Always eating in a rush,
Same.
not having enough protein, eating way too many carbs. So it wouldn't have mattered if I was seeing a therapist at that point, because nothing was going to really go anywhere. There was no foundation so that the things that I was learning, my body was going to be able to embody it, to internalize it, and to really embody what I was learning.
I relate with you because I used to run with toast in my mouth, shoes in one hand, running for the gym. You're right. Nobody could tell me at that point, oh, you need to do this. I'll be like, whatever. Like, this is how I have to live it right now.
And you're eating and you're drinking like a green juice, thinking that this is like that you're eating healthy, and that's not necessarily true. So I feel like it's important to talk about this, and this is where the biohacking comes in. As an emotional biohacker, for me, is biohacking my way to my emotions and to helping teach people how to get there using food as they're part of their medicine and movement as part of their medicine, because it's like getting into a car without any gasoline and expecting it to go. It's like, it's not going to go anywhere.
It's
not going. And I think we've done that for so long, right? Autopilot. We've been doing this for so long that we don't know any different. Foundational work, bringing it to the basics. Because if I teach you all of these foundational items, you're going to use this for the rest of your life. That sensor, that little biofeedback sensor, is going to go with you. And every time that something new happens in your life, I always say, new level, new devil. You're going to come to something new and it's going to dysregulate your nervous system. You bring your little sensor out, you start connecting to your heart, you start to check yourself, your resilience is going to grow.
But it's fascinating. Gosh, wow. That's beautiful. Honestly, it's so interesting with what you're saying, and I know that my listeners will be very interested, and we'll be putting everything in the show notes. So do check out Akary's work. It'll be in the show notes, and do give her a message, because I think a lot of us need to learn how to calm our nervous system and how to balance ourselves from our health, our well-being, and our happiness. I have 2 more questions.
Yes.
What are you most grateful for?
For being me. For being me, finally unapologetically stepping into who I am authentically, and appreciating human design for giving me the opportunity to not be so afraid of being so different. Actually embracing that and knowing that it serves a purpose in the world.
Oh, that's beautiful. And what shines your inner light?
What shines my inner light? Gosh, there's so many different things.
Even though it's in your name, but what shines?
Right? My name shines my inner light, girl. Come on. There's a lot of different things that shine my inner light. And right now, what shines my inner light is this global connection. It is connecting to other fabulous women through the miracle of the internet, and knowing that we can come together. And even though we live so very many different lives, that there's connection, that there's a circle that we can tap into to support each other and to learn from each other, and to just be ever so present in something completely different that our grandmothers, right, through the generations would have wanted for themselves.
Oh, they would have dreamed of this right now, the accessibility we have. My gosh.
I know. And I love being able to show up and offer this to other women, because at the same time, they all live within us, right? They're all in our DNA.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you, Akary, for being on the show and sharing your wisdom with us, and just being yourself, because it takes true guts to come and step into your power in this world. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you for having me here and letting my quirky self show up.
You're welcome.
What a powerful episode with Akary. It's so important to know how to trust the wisdom from within, and to ask yourself, what do you need right now? Because it's so important that we really listen to that message. Every day, our body, our mind, our soul is telling us, what do we need right now? And if we trust that, we are able to take our power back. And if you want more details about Akary and the work that she does, visit our show notes below and you can message her. Unfortunately, that's the end of the show. Before I leave, I want to leave you with this quote. The magic of breathwork allows us to surrender to the moment and move everything that is not real. That's a quote by Dr. Kaiser Koppler. Take care, my sisters, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
And remember, stay happy, stay healthy, Stay lit.